To the first International University Drone Racing League.
Carl Rickards actually managed to do him again before he gets overtaken. This is an absolute dogfight in our opening matchup here, round 4 of the opening bracket.
North Dakota going just past Matt Bierman. This is going to be an absolutely intense one as they've got to make sure that, oh my God, the reaction times, the speed, the flicks, absolutely blistering. To get some first person view. There we go, Patro. Look at this. You can see he's trailing at the moment. He's not in the next one. In the back, it goes out. And here we go, Pratalis. This is it. This is where we're getting the action. You're based there yourself. We want to see whether Matt Bierman can step it up. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first International University Drone Racing League. It is Drew, and we're going to be going straight into the venues. I am Lee D-Man Smith, and joining me is Pratalis for today, and we're going to have 15 universities racing one another. Obviously, a whole plethora of pilots in there from literally around the world, from the US through England over to Hong Kong. Everybody taking part, a truly international event here. And the first track will be Liftoff Arena, and we're going to be on track 2. But these are all the pilots, Pratalis. It really is a very mixed bag in terms of experience, skill, and what they bring to the table.
100%. Even in terms of the resources that some of these teams have available, there is a huge disparity between some of these team budgets. The lowest official budget I've seen is $50 and the highest official budget I've seen goes all the way up to 8,000. So an absolute wide array of different competitors here, of different ability levels, and it's going to be very interesting to see which organizations come out on top.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it works out, how the benchmark times are going to work as well, because obviously these guys are all racing in a big league table with multiple heats, with so many pilots who are taking part. We're going to have to obviously split it down to multiple heats of generally we're looking at 4 players. Obviously it's not always the case. It's going to be 2-3 pilots in some of the opening heats. Obviously we're racing internationally here, so times differ around the world. We can only try and settle as much as we can. We've gone for an afternoon time here in the UK, but of course that means in America it's going to be early morning. For Hong Kong it will be late at night. So these guys truly across the globe will be taking part here in the esports series of the International Open. Starting things off in the opening series, you can see we're going to be on the track which is Liftoff Arena 2. This is the guide, Pratalis, of how they're going to get around it. A much slower version, I might add, than we're going to see in the race.
Absolutely. There are some incredible speeds so far from these teams that have been coming through in practice. And in terms of a general overview of this track, you can see the layout is fairly simple with a figure of 8 shape, just heading towards the outside rafters, towards those elevated positions. So the majority of the time within the inside center of that track, you're not going to be seeing too many elevation battles other than going around those major figure of 8 turns.
And I think that big S turn at the end is going to be the hard one to see how they take it. Who's got the quickest wrist, effectively, to flick the drone round. Obviously, these pilots are using various different drones, so there's going to be different styles. Some are going to be heavier, some are going to be faster, some are going to be more agile. We'll get to see exactly what and where works the best across, obviously, the 2 tracks that we're going to be running today.
Certainly, and the case is that a couple of our pilots are using extreme drone controls today. That means that you have the exponential increase of the turning degrees power-wise, and the effect of that is that they can be quite difficult to control in an actual race. So hopefully these pilots are prepared enough and ready for those control schemes. Otherwise, we might be seeing a fair few crash outs today.
Well, here we are. We're going to be starting things off with our first 2 pilots. It will be Shangzhen Chen for the University Imperial College London up against the US Air Force Academy. And it's going to be Samuel Ratcliffe starting things off. He will be in the white, and Imperial College of London has the blue trace. That is a very, very fast Imperial US Air Force that will be starting things off the white trail.
He is putting in some excellent times at the moment, making very few mistakes from the Air Force pilot as well. As you might perhaps expect from his educational background, he was putting in great times during the practice sessions, and it doesn't look like he's making any errors in the actual race here at the moment either.
This is super clean. I think it's more clean than our observer's able to keep up. He is absolutely whizzing around without making a fault. We've obviously watched his time, and I got a feeling that from seeing how Sam Ratcliffe is going to deal with this might be setting some sort of goalpost for everybody else to aim at.
Well, it looks as though towards the end of that race, Sam Ratcliffe is going to come through with an incredible sub 54 seconds. That is going to be an incredible target for anyone else to beat today.
Just to put that across, that's 10 seconds faster than we've seen him doing in the practices. So that is an incredible time to start things off. Obviously, Sheng Shen, well, he's got his work cut out, I think, to try and match that.
That is certainly going to be the case. I think any pilot today is going to have their work cut out for them. I definitely think the divide between the American and the UK universities is going to be a bit of a theme that we see throughout the day, obviously, because you tend to have those two more closed off circuits. As well, there haven't been any international university drone racing competitions until this point. So one of the exciting factors really is going to be to see the skill disparity between those sort of separate closed off circuits and whether or not there are just different techniques that haven't quite made their way across the waters yet.
Just trying to find out whether that will be a DNF for Mr. Sheng Chen from the Imperial College. It's a shame because his radio battery died before he got to start, so he didn't even get to race. So it literally was a one-horse race. In fairness, Sam Ratcliffe, the time he posted, I'll be very interested when we move through the rest of these heats throughout the day. And there are going to be 8 different heats throughout the day. So I'd be very interested to see if anyone actually matches that 53-second timer he just posted. We expected the Americans to be coming into this one very fast. Obviously, far more experience in the drone racing community for the American universities than the British universities themselves. So we're expecting some really big times. And representing the US Air Force Academy, he's got a bit of pressure on his shoulders as well.
Well, certainly, and thankfully up next, it looks as though we are going to be seeing a little bit of a rematch from that first race. Imperial College London once again up against the Air Force Academy, this time with the Milwaukee School of Engineering in play. That's Ossian Keith from Imperial College, Timothy Smith from the United States Air Force Academy, and Alex Holt from the Milwaukee School of Engineering. We're going to have to see whether the Air Force are going to be able to make it 2 for 2.
Well, we're ready to go this time. Hopefully we'll get all 3 races off and running, and it will be. We're going to have a couple of all-white trials, so it's going to be tricky to tell exactly who is leading this one. We do have one blue in there at least, but with the 2 whites, it will be tricky to see who is in the lead. That looked like he took a wrong turn in there somewhere, so maybe at a possible restart of the track. We'll see whether he's working out well, because he is absolutely bombing around. Obviously, US Air Force once again in this one, expecting them to top out. We'll see whether the Imperial College can keep up. And as you say, Milwaukee coming in there at, I think it was 5 a.m., he said, in the morning where he was. So a very early morning for him. That is Kyle Ricketts managed to get himself in and running. And that's what we're watching at the moment.
He is currently in the lead of that race, surprisingly enough, ahead of the US Air Force competitor. We're still trying to see Ossian Keith try and put a decent timing on the board, but we are already miles behind what we'd seen in that first race pace already from Samuel Ratcliffe. So in terms of overall pace of the day, it looks like he may be holding an impressive time to beat as Imperial. It looks like there may have been a slight wipeout at the end, but Kyle Rickett with a 35-second time, that is phenomenal.
And I'm questioning that time as well. I'm not sure. I'm like, is that right? Did he really manage to do it in 35?
Well, that is definitely going to be a big question to ask. I'm wondering whether maybe there were a couple of wipeouts in that first track. It did look like there was a battle between the Milwaukee School of Engineering and the Air Force Academy, and it looked as though Timothy Smith may have sort of crashed that drone out relatively early on in the race. So I'm not sure whether there might have been some difficulties there control-wise for these drones, but it's definitely been an intense one so far, with the Americans leading throughout the day.
Well, once again, we move across the heats. And as you can see, currently Timothy Smith was the man. Well, he gets a tick box next to him, so I'm assuming he's the one that came out on top within that one. Carl Rickett also, who actually took part in the second heat due to an issue. So now we're going into heat 3. And this is an interesting one. We got a four-horse race, effectively. Michael Giblin, Malix, I'm going to go with Villarreal, go for the Spanish twang on the American name. We'll see whether he's correct. But Benjamin Owen, and from the City University of Hong Kong as well, is LB Bjorge.
And that is really going to be an interesting one in terms of this race. It is our biggest split in terms of international competitors across 3 continents in terms of the universities that they represent. So we're going to have to see, really, in terms of our first battle between those 3 separate continents, how everybody is going to be performing. I think we've been seeing a fair bit of wiping out in the first 2 heats already. So I think as these racers are obviously trying to push for the fastest time possible, with Samuel Ratcliffe setting that crazy one at the beginning of the day, perhaps something else that these racers might want to keep in mind is that control factor, as you don't necessarily need to come in first place in a 4-man heat to be able to progress through this event.
Exactly. It's just all about trying to get through, get the points for your university. And with the US AFA, aka the University Air Sports Academy. Air Sports? That's a new one.
Well,
give the Air Force a new name.
It's a new genre in esports.
That's it. I'm seeing the future. The US are going to have an Air Sports Academy soon. So they're moving on from the Air Force. And you know what? Drones are a big deal these days. So it's not too surprised to see the pilots getting themselves ready to go. So, okay, here we go into the third heat. As you can see, a red, yellow, black, blue, and white. Actually, televised black's our observer. So it is going to be red, yellow, blue, and white. We'll see who's coming out on top in this one.
Imperial College London in blue. I believe it's the United States Air Force Academy in white for this one. And then I believe it's the City University of Hong Kong in yellow as well. But off to an incredible start appears to be the University of Alabama taking the lead in the red, closely followed at the moment by the United States Air Force Academy. And so far the racing was neck and neck, but it looks as though the Air Force may just have pulled ahead.
Yeah, this is looking like a pretty quick one as well. Everyone's looking smooth, following Benjamin Owen at the moment from Alabama, the University of Alabama. There is 2 universities from Alabama. One's in Huntsville as well. So it's going to be keep track. I'm sure that's probably a little individual battle between themselves, the 2 Alabama universities. Generally, when you have 2 like that, it becomes a bit of a derby between each other. The U.S. Air Force Academy, of course, with Max Villarreal, doing very well at the moment. Very tight. The S-turn. This is the tight section. The quickest. Who's the most agile on the controls and quick and over the line. There you go for the second lap. Seeing who's going to come out with the quickest lap at the moment, the quickest time. We'll find out. Michael Giblin, of course, from the Imperial College London, who certainly did very well in the previous seasons. As we're coming over the final S. And we're going to get to see who's the quickest. Oh, didn't quite have the smooth turn he wanted there, did he? Just a little bit slow on the second turn. So who's going to come out on top? Who's going to be the fastest? It's 54 seconds for Ben Owen. And that's the Alabama coming out on top. Imperial College 121. And Strike Eagle was obviously Max Villarreal for the U.S. Air Force in second place. So Alabama coming out on top. That's a great result for them.
It certainly is as well, and it's the first United States Air Force Academy pilot to not win out their heat in the day. Unfortunately for Imperial College London, there hasn't been much success for that university team in our opening 3 heats, but thankfully Michael Giblin is not going to be eliminated. It looks as though he has made it through with Max Villarreal from the United States Air Force Academy, and unfortunately for the University of Alabama, Benjamin Owen was quick, but not quick enough to make the mark.
So did he maybe not quite hit the track correctly? Obviously, you can have a very fast time, but if you're not doing the correct circuit, as we've seen many times, you can see it obviously in the background, the correct route you've got to take. If you are skipping any of those checkpoints, it won't count for you. So moving on into Heat 4, we can see we've got the University of Coventry represented here. Here we go, Pratalis. This is it. This is where we get in the action. You're based there yourself. We want to see whether Matt Bierman can step it up. Peter Wu from the University of Cambridge as well. Chet Wiltshire from the University of Alabama. And Jose Hein, I'm going to go with, from the University of Miami.
Another exotic mix of universities available, and obviously there is going to be slight little bit of home bias on this end of the commentary duo for this one, but I mean, throughout the day so far, it really has been just a test of American universities battling each other. It looks like there's been a little bit of a correction to the standings there, and unfortunately for Imperial College London, it was Benjamin Owen who made it through that heat. That means that Imperial College were the first 3 competitors competing in the first 3 heats, but they are also your first team, sadly, not to make it through them.
Okay, I'm glad. I'd written Ben Owen down, and I scribbled him out, and I've written him back down again. Okay, he's staying now. I was just thinking, I'm sure he came out in a fast time, because it was a 54-second time. It's what stood out, that it was a very fast time, akin to Samuel Ratcliffe in the first heat. So the next 4 pilots, let's see whether Matt Bierman or Peter Wu can represent the UK. It's effectively the UK versus the US of A. Mm-hmm. We'll see who can come out the fastest this time around. It will be, I'm just trying to get my colours ready. Chet Wiltshire will be in red for the University of Alabama, which we obviously saw in the previous race. Cambridge will be in we're going to go with olive green. It's definitely a colour. Peter Wu for the University of Cambridge. We're just waiting for the other 2 pilots to get themselves connected.
And I think at this point, just from a UK perspective, some of our British universities are just going to be desperate to get some racers through these heats at the moment. It's an all-American victory board right now. And just from a UK perspective, I'm sure we'd absolutely love to see some British racers actually progress forwards into that second map, because who knows, maybe people's strengths lie in different areas. Obviously, with those drone builds, the customization has been firmly planted at the racers' feet. They've been able to select from a wide variety of options, and it could be the case that some of these rigs are just better tuned to our second track.
That's just it. There is a lot of different options that they could have taken coming into this. There'd be bigger batteries, the controls you were talking about earlier between Extreme and Racing. It's like very much whether it would suit perhaps this track, or whether when we move on to the next track, we're just going to suit obviously that one a bit more, and obviously more importantly, make sure they don't crash, which is a pretty big issue. We've seen some pretty damn smooth racing so far. So far, so good. We're just waiting for Jose to get himself connected from Miami. And as we did say, it is an international tournament. We are pulling in people, as I say, from the sunny climes of the United Kingdom and, of course, Miami. which might be a little bit more sunnier than here in the UK.
Ever so slightly, perhaps. And of course, well, I mean, just the weather differences in general is obviously going to be much more suitable conditions for actually drone racing than some of the torrential downpours that you do get in the UK. But that's one of the benefits of playing in the FPV simulator. You don't have those weather constraints. You can just sit down and practice. I mean, 24 hours a day if you wanted to, although I'm pretty sure you might get some matrix brain tricks going on there if all you're looking at is from the first person perspective of those drones. But from the practicing point of view, that can make your timing in the UK that much more valuable. If you have assigned those training sessions with your university, right, we're going to meet up on a Thursday evening, for example, the likelihood that practice session, if outside, is cancelled by weather is infinitely higher than in a university like Miami.
Absolutely. We'll find out. We're just waiting for the last final man to connect to the server, and we will get ourselves in there. Obviously, it's the COVID world we live in, which has actually allowed us to spawn off and have such a great international presence, effectively, obviously with people unable to travel around the world at the moment. It's great to have something where everybody can get involved in it all around the world.
100%, and just in terms of from an ease of entry perspective as well, doing it with the simulators, you don't quite have to worry about doing the physical engineering. There's obviously a lot of delays with postal services at the minute. If you were to get into drone racing and ordering various parts, it's going to take you a lot longer to have everything you want delivered to your house than it might otherwise would have. And I think that's another secondary benefit of having these simulators available, right? You can go with your virtual customization, you can practice whatever rigs it is you want with, and then you don't actually have to worry about going and contacting other people to physically build those drones.
Yeah, your pilots don't have to have a team of mechanics behind them, which they often do on these things. This S10 here, this is the one that seems to be catching most people out. It's really how quick you can flick it around. Obviously, the rest of mostly used to the standard turns, but having to do a quick turn like that, we're seeing the more agile of pilots being able to really flick it round, which obviously everybody's generally used to these days. Obviously, the verticality of the track as well as they up and down. And later on, we will be moving on to the second track. That's more of an indoor track. Obviously, the setup with those is you tend to have pillars in the way, as if you were in a stadium, in a car park, effectively. You have these big pillars, these things, they're called structural problems, but they'll become obstacles, obviously, later on.
Well, and another factor to consider as well is that we are playing with damage enabled. So if you go wiping out into one of those concrete pillars, you can pretty much say goodbye, to your racing performances. And that is something that I think a lot of these racers might want to be a little bit more cognizant of. I think we may have seen our fair share of either technical crashes or damage related stoppages so far in these heats already. And when you're trying to push the insane time margins that you really can't afford to be tracking around a damaged drone.
That's just it. I mean, is it better to play it safe and maybe just lose some time and just make sure you actually make it round? Obviously, it depends it's always the same, right? You're in a race, everybody wants to go as fast as they possibly can. We're going to be moving on, it seems, without Jose, so hopefully we'll get the next race underway. It will be the Ford taking part. As you can see, there was a wonderful shade of purple in there. I think I didn't see who it was for. We will find out in a second. I'm assuming it's going to be commentary. It's commentary. It is. It's Matt Bierman. Is it pink? Is it purple? We don't know, but he's managed to get it underway, and it's a great start from Matt Bierman already. He's managed to lead out from the front. You can see how quick those times are going to be. The red is indeed the University of Alabama, and the greeny white shade, I think it's safe to say, is going to be Cambridge University. So very tight racing right now, but look at the speed of these guys. Very different approaches there. Look at that, how one swept much wider than the other, and it's actually given Coventry University's Matt Bierman a much bigger advantage as he manages to get around very quickly. It looks like he's done a lot of practice on this one.
Absolutely, and it may just have worked out as well. It looks as though the University of Alabama may have had a wipeout during this one, unless they've also managed to come through with some incredibly quick timings. But we are on board with Cambridge at the moment, trying to just finish off this map. It isn't the fastest run that we have seen through today, but around the minute mark are the sort of times that we were seeing for these maps in practice. And yeah, it does look, unfortunately for Alabama, that they did have some kind of crash out and weren't able to finish, which means that for our first heat of the day, we've got 2 UK pilots going through.
Yes, Coventry University with a very, very quick time there. 35. We saw him going off, and very different approaches. I like to see that. I mean, that's obviously what we get with these different pilots using different approaches, seeing which is the best. There is no best, right? There's always someone has a different approach to the track, so it's working out well. So it will be, as you say, both UK pilots going through. Matt Bierman and Peter Wu through from Heat 4. Now, moving on to Heat 5, it will be Joseph Hyde for Coventry University. Piedra Byrne from University of Cambridge, Ryan Joshe, that is from Michigan State University, and Alex McGowan. He is from the University of Alabama in Huntsville. And this is what I was talking about. Obviously, we saw ALA, which is University of Alabama earlier on. We've had Benjamin Owen going through, but Chet Wilshere did not. Now, can the University of Alabama in Huntsville get someone through?
Well, that is going to be the question. Obviously, there is going to be a little bit perhaps of a state rivalry going on there, broken down more by in terms of that US category of pilots. And if you do want the state of Alabama to be represented in those next races, you're absolutely going to be supporting the University of Alabama in Huntsville. Interestingly enough, in that last race that unfortunately for Chet Wilshere, it looked like he had a bit of a control issue and as a result wasn't able to finish. And that is a problem that I think we may start to continue to see now that the UK boys have arrived, now that they are able to finish races and we know put some pretty scary times on the board as well. Is that going to start ramping the pressure up now on these American races and start forcing some more mechanical driving errors?
Well, Joseph Hyde, certainly a veteran of the scene, has been around and taken part for a long time. 2019, I think it was. 2019 season 2 was where the Cambridge University did well. Season 3 was when Coventry University certainly put themselves in there, and John Hyde being the man leading the charge in 2019 season 3. So we're expecting some big things. No pressure on Coventry University, but here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're underway once again. Remember, it is the pinky purple for Coventry University. Oh, did I just see a crash out there from the blue? I did. I think I said, but it's Coventry University. They're absolutely blasting round right now. Mr. Joseph Hyde is delivering. Look how quick he did the S-turn there. Absolutely whipped it round. I think Cambridge University just made a slight error. Yeah, he had to retake the S-turn and immediately have to come back around. It's looking like a good start, though, for Coventry. We expected something good from them. Meanwhile, where is the Michigan State University and the University of Alabama in Huntsville? We'll see the times in a second. I think Coventry's already over the line and done. This is going to be this is who's the white? Actually, tell a lie. This is Cambridge. This is Cambridge still, isn't it? That's the olive green.
Yeah, Cambridge in the olive, still racing through at the moment in second. University of Alabama.
Did they wipe out?
I think there was a wipeout that occurred there, unfortunately. So they're not going to be making it through this particular race. And I believe now we are just waiting for that final American University Michigan State to finish things off. Unfortunately, due to the timings, it looks like it's not going to be quick enough for them to qualify. But we're starting to get a pretty decent narrative established now. Coventry and Cambridge as UK universities are not messing around whatsoever.
Yeah, 46 seconds for Joseph Hyde. We saw him go off like the clappers. Absolute fantastic start for him. Didn't beat, by the way, Matt Bierman's time, also from Coventry University, who did 35 seconds. Crazy times. So Cov turning up strongly. Cambridge also, as you say, going through with... It's not Peter. I want to say Peter, but it's not. It's Peter. Peter Byrne. So moving on to the next setup. We do have John Hughes in there, the veteran from Cambridge University of Cambridge. Obviously, he was one of the main guys in 2019 season 2. One of the champions in there. So we're hoping that he can certainly deliver. He's up against a couple of different universities from around. I believe that's the University of Maryland, if I'm not mistaken. No, tell a lie. That's the University of North Dakota. Ooh, this is one of the big organizations, right?
Indeed.
University of Dakota is one of the massive organizations. So we'll see what Russell Morotzka can bring to the table. Evan Petrie also in there from Brigham Young University, get their correct name. And again, from the University of Alabama in Huntsville is Jackson and Medvecki.
So we have a pretty big budget disparity here in terms of a couple of these teams. University of North Dakota, one of the most supported American university drone racing organizations. They have more than 30 active pilots and a budget of nearly $8,000. Compared that to Brigham Young University, who have just a single member in their team and a $250 annual budget. It is potentially a David versus Goliath battle here.
I mean, is it the plucky young man with nothing to lose against the world versus Russell, who has, as you say, the might of the North Dakota University behind him? With as you say, with that many pilots, have they selected their best here to take part in Iodru? We will find out. But do not rule out John Hughes, as we say, from University of Cambridge, coming into this one as one of the veterans. Just got a quick glimpse of the colours there, but I couldn't quite catch them all. So we will go with our best guesswork. We know that the University of Cambridge were running as the olive green, so we can keep our eye on that one.
Alabama Huntsville is the lighter blue, I believe.
The lighter blue, yeah.
North Dakota in the green.
Green, okay, so keep your eye on the green screen. He's going to be the man to watch, perhaps. And this is a fast race. Okay, they were all running pretty much dead level on that first corner. Didn't quite catch where they all were. This is going to be the green that's absolutely trailblazing ahead there. You've lost track of him already. He's gone that fast. So that is possibly North Dakota absolutely blasting around, along with John Hughes as well, it seems like. Russell Moretska we're watching here. We're trying to see them from the University of North Dakota. Was trailing earlier on. I'm going to try and keep track. Look at these. All three. It's so close between them. Who had a wipeout there? Or was it just the observer? I don't know. I didn't quite catch it. It looks like North Dakota do top out. I think Evan Petra may well have had a great result as well through the S and over the line. That's a fast heat from all four pilots, it looks like, this time around. So who came out on top? Was it North Dakota? It looked like it.
Yeah, I definitely believe it was. Another sub 40-second time from an American university, University of North Dakota. Insanity.
Brigham Young, 47 seconds. They make it through. They may have had a mere, I don't know, would it be about like an 8,000th of a percent of what Brigham Young had brought to the of what North Dakota brought to the table, but he was only 10 seconds off, and it does mean he goes through. Unfortunately for us Brits, it does mean that John Hughes will be going out. So Russell Moretska going through along with Evan Petrie from Brigham Young. Amazing story going on there. The David and Goliath continues. We'll see how that one plays out.
That is certainly going to be a battle you're going to want to keep your eyes on going forward, ladies and gentlemen. But the Goliath team, they certainly haven't been knocked out yet. Jordan Kruger representing North Dakota in heat number 7 here as well. Northeastern University being represented by Pedro Carceres. Then you have the University of Maryland by Ben Tebest. And finally, it is the University of Central Florida being represented by Joseph Manolo in our penultimate heat here in the Liftoff Arena.
Yeah, all Americans from now on out. We'll see who can bring the best performance to the table. Will we see once again another immense performance from North Dakota? Solid performance from Russell Moretska. Didn't put a foot wrong. Did not put a foot wrong. Absolutely blasted off from the start and from the very first checkpoint. They went straight through, and we saw just how quick they are. I'm very interested on the sweep up into the stands where the first corner. Well, technically it's the second, I guess. As they go up, and the S-turn. The S-turn seems to be definitely throwing people off.
100%. I think we've already seen a couple of times now people actually end up missing that S-turn gate and have to come back and redo it, which, if nothing else, is going to cost you a lot of time. But in these 4-man heats, I feel like I can't stress the point. If you have to make the decision between taking a line that might need to make you redo a turn or taking a line that might make you crash out and fall out of the race before getting there, these 10-second differences, they can be significant enough to get you eliminated from a heat, but that's nothing on you being one of the only 2 people being able to get across the line.
Absolutely. Yeah, make sure you finish is a big part. As we've seen with quite a few of these so far, these heats, so just waiting for the pilots to get themselves in and ready, as we say, communicating across the globe here, getting 4 American pilots this time ready to go. I'm very impressed that the UK pilots managed to contest, though. Obviously, with Coventry and Cambridge getting themselves a couple of pilots through. Very impressive, obviously, much newer scene within the UK than comparison to the US universities.
Well, Coventry University in particular, they have some very interesting infrastructure behind them. The coach to the Coventry University team is a veteran of drone racing, James Sheriff. He was a contender even to be the British drone racing champion at one point in time. So in terms of experience, Coventry University definitely have some skilled people behind them. And I think you were definitely seeing reflected that in the times from their races.
Well, as soon as they do get themselves in, nice little aerial view of exactly what's going on. Don't expect the drone racers to be at that height. Just our observer having some fun clicking around the tracks. And the recharge and repair bays there, the purple and green. Not that we're going to be seeing any of these pilots using those.
Well, I certainly can't imagine you needing to time-wise with the speed that these races are going at. Battery management is on and a factor, just as a point to communicate for you, the viewer, although it doesn't seem to have had too much of a bearing so far on our actual races of the day. And as you've mentioned now, it is all Americans left in the remaining two heats at this point in time. And the University of North Dakota as well, still having a racer in field. They have some of the biggest budgets in the game at the moment, and I think it could be a really interesting brawl in terms of budget versus skill. Obviously, we saw in that last race that the representative from North Dakota was far and away the best racer there, was far out ahead the entire time. But I'm really going to be intrigued when these start to narrow down a little bit more, some of these team breakdowns, how they compare to each other. The US Air Force Academy versus North Dakota versus Coventry at the moment. Those seem to be the three names that have been putting out the most exciting times.
Well, hopefully we're going to get a word with one of the pilots that will be taking part in the next heat in just a moment from the University of North Dakota. As you were saying, the massive budget that they have has brought the attention of certainly of us and certainly probably some of the other universities out there, maybe a little jealous of the budgets that they do manage to get in there. But here we go. We can see Jordan Kruger going to be in the green. Petro Kassé from Northeastern University will be red. Intuitive Manilow will be in the yellow. So team radio, hopefully. Jordan Kruger joining us.
Hey folks, how's it going?
It's going very good for us. Now, North Dakota, you've already got one pilot through. A great performance already from Russell. Bit of pressure on you, Jordan, I believe, to deliver here.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sticks and Stones, I have definitely raced with him in the past, and he's fast. So need a second place finish here, but I'm looking forward to it.
What sort of time-wise have you been looking at practicing here? Obviously, you guys have had a little bit of time. We're seeing 35s as pretty much the quickest so far.
For 3 laps. I've been throwing down some 11s consistently and a couple 10s. So right in that ballpark.
Whew, that is pretty quick for Talis.
It certainly is.
Here, obviously, you're up against a full-out American seeding here. Have you had any chance to race against any of the UK pilots yet?
I have not, no.
Well, that's definitely going to be an interesting factor about the competition in general, obviously, as an international race. I don't know if you have heard of any of the timings coming through so far, or perhaps in terms of your general sense of the competition, is there anyone overall you are quite afraid to face up against?
On the US side, Sticks and Stones, I have no clue internationally.
So
Joseph Manilow, sorry, yeah.
Joseph Manilow. Okay, so who you're up against, obviously, within your heat. Yep. So he's well known from the University of Central Florida.
Absolutely, yeah. He put the heat on at the last Collegiate Drone Racing Championship, and he's been putting some hot laps down on the sim from what I've seen this morning. So.
Okay, then. So we're expecting a very fast heat there, then. Well, I won't keep you any longer, Jordan. Thank you very much for joining us, and best of luck within this heat.
Thanks, gentlemen.
So there we go. So we're expecting a very fast one here, Bratalis, between obviously Jordan and Joseph. They've faced each other, and this is what we were talking about, right? Obviously, the experience with the American universities, they have faced each other in various other leagues, and here in IOTA, they're coming up against each other. So very interesting that they very much know each other. Obviously, the university scene, it's big, but it's if you're fast, you know your opponents.
100%, and I'm going to be really interesting to see whether some of the practice times that Jordan was quoting do match up to these race times. I think that he was sort of breaking down, he's getting 10, 11-second laps, but that almost gave me a sense that perhaps in the practice session, the focus wasn't on the fastest 3-lap time. It was about how quickly you could just get your individual laps out. And if that is the practice system that some of these racers have been working with, that could have a serious impact in their overall race time. Because, for example, you're not quite going to be ready if you do end up missing a turn and having to factor that into your overall time.
Well, we're going to be getting another interview in just a moment. Hopefully with the City University of Hong Kong. Obviously, we're talking about the fact that, it is a global sport effectively. And joining us, I believe, is, if I'm hopefully get the pronunciation of this right, is LB Borge.
Borja, actually.
Borja. Oh.
No worries.
Where's the origins of that surname?
Filipino, but I was raised in Hong Kong.
It's Filipino. There we go. I got it completely wrong. I was thinking Scandinavian surname. It's kind of got that sort of going on with it. But so you're the only representative from the City University of Hong Kong. You're up against a lot of Americans and UK pilots. How have you felt it's gone for you?
Sorry, could you repeat that? It cut out for that.
Sorry, how do you feel it's going for you in terms of up against the Americans and the UK teams?
I mean, I look at these names and I see like a lot of great schools that have a lot of pedigree, I guess. So we don't. The drone racing is new for us. I did okay in the first race. I crashed out, which was better than not making it to the race at all.
True, absolutely. Well, we've been talking about that. Obviously, some are posting very incredibly fast times, whereas others are basically making sure they finish, which is obviously a big part of it, because it's all well and good going fast, but if you crash, you don't get a time.
Mm-hmm. A DNF doesn't count for points.
It does not. Is there any particular pilots in these lobbies that you've been looking at that you are interested to see? Obviously, we just heard from Jordan Kruger talking about Joseph Manilow. These guys have got a bit of a rivalry building, it seems. So anybody out there that you're expecting to see perform?
No, because this is, again, very new. The only rival I have in mind is the other school in Hong Kong that hasn't made it to this competition. So in that way, we're already ahead.
In that way, you won already. That's it.
I did want to ask LB, you mentioned that drone racing was pretty new to your university. Sort of as a scene in Asia, how do you think the drone racing circuit compares to continents like Europe and America?
The problem with Hong Kong is that there isn't much open space for flying high-speed drones, which makes training very difficult. There are the good thing is a lot of people are tech heads in Hong Kong, so you have DJI drones, you have drones all over the place, but not FPV drones. If you look at the kind of communities that have sprouted up, each one only has like 100, maybe 1,000 members at the most. But since then, I guess the only major thing here is a multi-GP chapter.
Wow, thank you for the information. I feel like I've definitely learned a little bit more about some of the issues facing you. I can definitely imagine that airspace issue in Hong Kong being a serious problem. I'm definitely going to have to think about finding locations such as stadiums or halls to try and practice in. That's the only thing I can think of to try and get around that.
Or we could hold the race in the city.
In the city, racing around the buildings of Hong Kong.
Totally safe.
Few eyebrows. Thank you very much, LB, for joining us, and best of luck in the future, certainly in your drone racing career.
Thank you so much. I'll pop out now.
Okay, so moving on, we do have one last little interview, I believe, coming in from a local to Portales It is hopefully going to be Coventry University joining us in a moment, who, by the way, have posted some incredible times. And speaking of one of those incredible times, Matt Bierman is here from the University of Coventry, who posted that 35.44 earlier on today. Matt, welcome.
Hello, thank you. I was quite a quick time. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, incredibly fast. It's I think it was only matched by Kyle Ricketts so far. We're expecting a very fast heat coming up from the North Dakota boys. I don't know. Who do you expect to be your rivals? Obviously, you've taken part in the UK side of things, but we've got a lot of these big universities coming in from America with these massive budgets, and not to mention the US Air Force Academy as well.
Yeah. Obviously, there's a massive amount of competition this time round. I still think myself and Joe Hyden will be quite close. We're putting in fairly similar lap times in practice. I think he struggled in his race, but I think when it comes down to it, if we're in the same race, we could have quite a tight one.
Yeah, he managed to get through as well as actually both yourselves and Peter Wu obviously went through, and I believe Joseph and Peter Burns. So both Coventry and Cambridge, the rivalry continues, I guess.
Yeah. We're on it with them. That's some tight racing with them as well. But I think we've got the edge there. We've got the edge.
Well, from the broadcast perspective so far, obviously, you, Matt, are one of only a few UK pilots who's actually managed to perform well in those heats. Was that something you were expecting coming into this event?
I wasn't 100% certain how it was going to turn out, because I know there's a lot of very quick UK flyers out here. But obviously the US scene is that much bigger. They've got the talent from, I think they start sooner and get more involved over there.
And you definitely think that's had an impact on today?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Because they've got the whole multi-GP side, and that just brings newcomers in a lot easier compared to the UK scene.
Yeah, and I guess we've seen that already with obviously John Hughes going out from Cambridge. Obviously, Russell from University of North Dakota posting a very quick time as well, like yourself, 37 seconds for him. So they're certainly hot on your heels. We're also expecting Jordan Kruger and Joseph Manilow in this next heat to be very, very quick. They've already talked about their rivalry. Is there anyone out there you're kind of fearful of?
I think, to me, I'm not keen on racing against. I know you mentioned Jordan Kruger, because I've seen him in the practice, and he's quite quick. So I'd be quite happy if I wasn't in the same round as him, because he's got the speed on me there.
Yeah, you're right. He said he's posting a 10-11 second lap, so we'll see whether he can put it all together with the 3 laps combined. Now, obviously, it's well and good doing one hot lap if you can't put them all together.
Yeah, exactly. It comes down to the consistency, and in the practice, obviously, you can put in the single lap time and get a really good one. But if you can't do that consistently in a race, you're never going to win.
Well, thank you very much, Matt, and best of luck in the future. I hope it goes well for you. Obviously, a local Coventry boy, both myself and Pratalis from the area. So
brilliant.
We'll be cheering.
Thank you, guys.
Sorry.
Yeah, cheers.
Good luck.
Cheers. In a bit, guys.
Okay, so moving on to the 7th heat of the day, and as mentioned, Pratalis, Jordan Kruger, Joseph Manilow up against each other. Let's not rule out Pedro Caceres, I believe he is, and Bent Beast, that are also taking part from Northeastern University and the University of Maryland. But it is going to be the University of Central Florida we are watching, along with North Dakota, and we are hot on the way.
Oh, and it is immediately a brawl at the beginning of this one between Jordan and Joseph. I do believe it is Joseph, just about in the lead of this one right now. He claimed that his practice lap times were about a second quicker than Jordan that we interviewed, but it looks as though this battle is just not letting up right now.
I mean, the observer can't even keep up with him. He's absolutely blistering pace. It was the yellow we were looking at. That was Joseph, so he was over line. And I got to be honest, I think Jordan Kruger's out here. I think he might be going out. It looked like Pedro was very quick as well there, if I'm not mistaken, from Northeastern University. We knew this was going to be a tight heat. We'll have to find out with the times at the moment as the observers looking to see if there's anyone left remaining. We're still looking for the final man. So I think Jordan's out. I think we just lost Jordan Kruger.
Oh, Pedro
Pedro with a 27.9. Joseph Manlow on a 30-point out. They are the two fastest times we have seen so far. Northeastern University turning up with a mega sub 30-second time. That is by far the fastest we've seen so far.
And I think that makes Pedro Caceres the biggest dark horse of the tournament. Nobody sort of indicating that they were scared of him. Nobody commenting on his practice times or anything like that. And then he comes out and blows everyone else's times out of the water, I think, with the first sub 30-second race time we've seen so far today.
I mean, both of those are the fastest times. We've not seen sub 35 yet. That is phenomenal. We weren't talking about Pedro whatsoever. Jordan Kruger mentioned Joseph Manalo, but that has absolutely blown it out of water. And now Bratalis, we have two pilots from Northeastern University in the next heat, in Ian Burwell and Ryan Lung. And suddenly we're looking fully at Northeastern University, obviously up against the University of Maryland, I believe it is, in Qingwen Wei and Kelly Belsky. So, I mean, that's going to be a hell of a heat to try and match. That was a quick one. I feel for Jordan Kruger because I think he was actually pretty quick, but it was just up against two phenomenal times.
Indeed. And I mean, just the absolute insanity that is that Northeastern University. They, as a squad, I believe, they are another one of the squads who have a rather large budget behind them, a team average of $4,500 for that team at the moment. So that does put them as one of the more supported ones in this event overall. But that timing that's just absolute insanity. I'm still trying to recover from it. And we've got two more pilots from that team yet to see.
Yeah, I'm interested actually with them both in the same lobby. Are they both going to be red? I don't know how this is going to work. We'll get to find out. Yes, they are both going to be red. And both
hopefully lightened
up. It's going to be a little bit confusing to try and track who is exactly who. But I guess it's literally a head-to-head. It is Northeastern University versus the University of Maryland. And we'll see who comes out on top. It's looking like the blazing red at the front. There is a little yellow blip that's actually putting a good old race on here. So we'll figure out whether Maryland can come out on top. They are leading at the moment.
They're certainly giving it a try. I think Maryland might just be in second place behind the one pilot from Northeastern University who really has pulled out ahead of everyone else at the moment. Doesn't look like we're getting any sub 30-second times in this particular race. And in the closing stages of things, it looks like one of Maryland's pilots has crashed out of this one as well. The first to finish looking as though it is Northeastern University. And between the battle of the remaining two pilots, the University of Maryland are desperate to put one through, and it looks like they come in second place.
Yeah, okay. Don't think they were the fastest times. 35 from, it is going to be a split. Okay, so 35 from Ryan Lung. Qingwen Wei will go through. So it is going to be a straight split between the two. And it was, I'd say it's not the quickest. It's 35. I say it like a throwaway time now that we've seen a sub 30.
Yeah, that is still absolutely crazy. And again, the time disparity of some of these qualified pilots as well is still relatively high. It looks as though there's been a performance increase just throughout the heats as we've progressed through the day. And that makes me really excited to see how these sort of newly formed heat groups are going to be looking, because we definitely have some impressive pilots on the board.
So fantastic stuff. The qualifying heats in round one. And we heard already, obviously, it's all about putting the points on the board, getting the finish. The DNF doesn't give you anything. And that's what they're looking at. So round two, here we go. Timothy Smith, Carl Rickett, and Benjamin Owen. So trying to pan back down. Kyle Rickett was very fast. He had a 35-second time in there. So we're expecting to see some quick action from him. Obviously, all of these guys, they qualified through on the first heat, so all very quick. It does mean that Coventry and Cambridge have managed to keep themselves relatively split. Seeing where our fastest man ended up going. It was Pedro. Pedro is in with Bingham Young and Qingwei, who actually did just do a 35-second time. So obviously, it's all well and good doing a 29-second time in the first round, but it doesn't mean nothing if you can't continue consistently deliver.
That is absolutely the case. And I have to wonder, at least if I was Kyle Rickard, immediately after that first heat, I'd be straight back into the practice rooms and immediately trying to work on my time again, because it's starting to get down to the wire now. The difference between some of these 35-second times, obviously Pedro has blown everyone out of the water in terms of the fastest times of the day, but there are a lot of pilots coming in around that 35-second mark now. So just being able to improve on any marginal gains that you can get a grasp of could be a huge factor, as Kyle was one of the first races of the day. Hopefully he's been practicing to try and improve on those.
So Timothy Smith from the US Air Force Academy, Kyle Rickett, who was very late on joining us, but managed to get himself in there. Milwaukee School of Engineering. It was crazy early for some of these guys at the start of the day. And Benjamin Owen from the University of Alabama all had some very quick times at the start of the day. But now we progress through. And 3 pilots getting ready to go. We're going to have the colors for you. Will be purple for Kyle Rickett. Timothy Smith from the US Air Force Academy will be in blue, and Ben Owen in red from the University of Alabama.
And we do indeed have Milwaukee School of Engineering out in the lead once again. Alabama closely following in second by the looks of things, as I'm not quite sure why we haven't got a blue trail on the screen. I'm wondering whether there's been a technical issue with that drone. But so far, the Milwaukee School of Engineering is far out ahead.
He's almost a lap ahead. Exactly. I think he just lapped him. I'm pretty sure he just lapped Ben Owen. He's actually gone around that quick. There's the blue streak. That's what we were looking for. The US Air Force Academy involved. And, well, I think we're going to be seeing Kyle Rickett finishing first. The question is, who will be in second place? As at the moment, it is looking like a very quick time for Kyle. He's already completed his 3 laps. As we see the US Air Force, he missed the gate, had to go back through it. That's why we saw him looping back around there. And unfortunately, that means the time will cost him. But as we said, it's all about completing the time. Kyle, 32.7. Ben Owen in with 56 in the end there. So another fast one from Kyle Rickett, increasing on his speed, 35 seconds in the previous round 1. He was back in 32 seconds for Kyle this time around.
And that is definitely a positive sign to see him improving on the timing that he already put out in that first heat of the day. That means that the Milwaukee School of Engineering and the University of Alabama are your first 2 universities to get pilots through this second wave of heats. Unfortunately for Timothy Smith, he has to say goodbye at this particular junction. And now we get on to an interesting race from the UK perspective, because we have our fastest British pilot of the day so far, Matt Bierman, representing Coventry University.
And Matt Russell as well from North Dakota was very quick. And Peter Byrne, these are all very fast pilots. And as you say, University of Coventry, University of North Dakota, and University of Cambridge all up against one another. Now, if I'm going back to my colour schemes, if I remember rightly, Matt Bierman will be in a purple as well. North Dakota will be green, and Cambridge University will be
that olive colour, yeah.
It's not really a clean colour.
Not the easiest of identifiable trails, but hopefully one that we are going to be seeing in the mix during this race. I think that this one could be one of the most interesting races we have today. North Dakota have been putting in thoroughly good times throughout the day, and Matt Bierman has put our best time out of any British pilot, so it's going to be a huge battle.
Yeah, to put in perspective, here we go, back underway. 35 was the best for Matt Bierman, 37 was the best for North Dakota, so they're up against one another, and it does look like it's neck and neck as well, as they both match each other. It is Matt Bierman at the moment with the smallest of advantages, as he's trailed once again. by the University of North Dakota, looking very good for these two, which doesn't bode well for the University of Cambridge, which is trailing behind somewhat.
Unfortunately, that is the case, but the battle for first and second really is not letting up. Matt Bierman defending well from this lead at the moment and looking like he's not willing to yield any ground. It's sub 40 seconds for both Coventry and North Dakota, but unfortunately for Cambridge University, regardless of the time put out here, this pilot is sadly going to be eliminated.
Some very quick times he was up against, in fairness. He's going to be 54 seconds, looks like, for him, but I think it was, as you say, sub 40 seconds. Matt Bierman looked like he was in first place. It was a 35-7 once again, and a 37 once again for Russell. So matching their first qualifying rounds, round 4 and 6 for the two. It does mean, of course, that Coventry will move on, and the University of North Dakota both moving through. Some very quick times from the two.
And looking ahead then to the third heat of our second round, it is an all-American one. Ryan Lung from Northeastern University, Samuel Ratcliffe from the United States Air Force Academy, and Joseph Manilow from the University of Central Florida. Supposedly one of the most scary American pilots that we have to face up against. But obviously, the heat that he was in, it was Pedro Caceres that really did surprise everyone with that time. So we'll have to see whether or not Joseph Manilow might have been keeping something on the back burner for that one.
Well, he did do a 30-second time. But then again, Ryan Lung came out with a 35-second time. Joseph Manilow, as you say, 30-second time in there. And Sam was a 53-second. That was the poster time we saw in round 1. Of course, he wasn't racing against anyone within that because there was a battery fault for his opponent, opponent pilot. So we don't really know what he can bring to the table. But as you say, Northeastern University could be certainly bringing the heat in this one. They're going to be racing in the red, I think they are. Yep. And it is a yellow for UCF, the University of Central Florida, and blue for the, actually it's a white for Sam Ratcliffe.
And it does look as though Central Florida, Joseph, up into the lead of first place, not looking willing to yield it either right now. It's another incredibly tight battle for first and second, but I believe Joseph may have just pulled out ahead of this one. Look at these lightning speeds.
This is from the first-person perspective of Joseph Manilow, and my God, the reaction times, the speed, the flicks, absolutely blistering. Another sub 30 second, I think we just saw there. You know, it's got to the point where the observer's just like, you know what? I'm just going to put my lot in and just going to follow it in first person because these guys are so incredibly fast. I feel sorry for the University Sam Rickett there because why these guys, I mean, 29-3 once again. Ryan Lung 35. These are incredible fast times.
And perhaps we are seeing why those American pilots were fearing Joseph Manilow. He puts out our second sub 30-second race of the day and definitely establishes himself as a contender to watch. Up next, the UK make another appearance with Joseph Hyde representing Coventry University, Peter Wu of Cambridge, and then the United States Air Force Academy, their last remaining pilot, Max Villarreal.
Yeah, Joseph did a 46-second time earlier on. Peter Wu actually went through round 4, and it may actually be a very close race between these two. So interested to see how they can earn it, whether Max can handle the pace of the two British pilots. Would be obviously at the moment Matt Bierman, the only remaining British pilot that's managed to get through. So we'd love to see one of these. Well, we're going to get to see one of these regardless. It's only 2 pilots. It's like simple math.
Every cloud has its silver lining.
Absolutely. So Coventry will be in the purple. Cambridge will be in the olive, and the US Air Force, I assume, will be once again either white or blue. We will find out in just a moment.
I believe it's white is the trail they've been using for most of the day, yeah. So I can't see too much of a reason for them to change it. But these upcoming heats now, you need to start putting out incredibly quick times on them because we've seen the top-end pilots regularly break 30 seconds. And the guys who end up qualifying in second place, it's pretty much dead on or under, I think, 36 seconds a lot of the time. So even if you are making it through these heats at this stage, in a second place scenario, if you're getting a time of 40 seconds or more, it may not be enough to compete.
Which is incredible. It really is. It really is incredible to think and see that. But the man leading the charge for Coventry University, Joseph Hyde, is going to certainly hope that he can match his teammate Matt Bierman. And for the University of Cambridge, this is their last chance. Peter Wu, see whether, and I guess the same for me, Max Villarreal as well. So could be seeing two universities under pressure here from one another. One obviously representing the United States Air Force Academy, Peter Wu from the University of Cambridge. And Cambridge and Coventry University obviously both got the pedigree within the UK themselves, so a bit of local rivalry certainly between these two to deliver.
Well, absolutely. With only one space, well, obviously potentially there is two spaces for them both to go through, but in terms of a limited number of representatives from the UK going forward off the back of this race, and you could be fairly certain that Max isn't going to just let his foot off the gas and allow these two Brits to qualify over him. There's definitely going to be a lot of pride on the line here, and you wouldn't want to be squeezed out at that last stage by a fellow Brit, especially if you've been competing with them regularly and there is that rivalry built up in that scenario. So I definitely think you've hit the nail on the head when it comes to that Coventry-Cambridge rivalry, as we just need as many UK representatives as we can get, and they are both going to be fighting each other potentially for that final spot.
We'll see whether anybody can get close to the 29-second times that both Joseph Manolo have posted, and alongside it was Pedro Caceres, who will be up in the next round. Actually, Bingham Young and Qingwen Wei. Qingwen Wei was pretty fast, if I remember rightly, as well. I've tried to keep my notes going. Actually, till like it was outside 35, which is, at the moment considered slow, which is incredible to see. I mean, I think we're going to get to the point where, from an observing perspective, once we get to these 29-second time pilots, we just want to see them from first person. Obviously, we saw it from Joseph Manolo, just how incredibly skilled these pilots are.
Just hitting a sub 30-second time, that means you're on an average lap time of under 10 seconds. That is absolutely phenomenal. You're looking at Usain Bolt level pace at that point in time. That's ridiculous.
Well, once the three pilots can get themselves in, don't know what the delay is at the moment. Maybe trying to wrangle all the pilots while obviously internationally with the Americas and the UK universities getting themselves in there. Just waiting to get them ready to go. Coming up, as we say, Bingham Young still got Evan Petrie in there as well. So they're one and only pilot, I think it was, for this, if I'm not mistaken. I think we're just waiting for the observer to get themselves ready to go.
I do believe there may have been a pilot dropout of this upcoming race.
Oh, okay.
Peter from Cambridge, it looks like, may not be participating in the upcoming heat. So looking as though it may just be between Joseph Hyde and Max Villarreal.
Well, I mean, from that perspective, to go through, you've just got to make sure you don't get a DNF. Just take your time.
Well, it looks as though we are almost ready to get this heat underway. And if anything else, you can use the lack of pressure perhaps as an opportunity to put out some race-worthy practice under race conditions and just see what level of time you can push yourself. Coventry University looking like they're just about sticking in the lead at the beginning of this one and starting to extend that lead now as well.
Yeah, as I say, just take your time. Don't break the drone. It's definitely a much quicker time from obviously Coventry University. Looks like Joseph's going to have this one very much in the bag in terms of racing, but in a two-horse race with two going through, I think he's going to be safe here. This is the view from Joseph Hyde from the University of Coventry. This just shows how quick and agile these pilots actually have to be. Just smaller differences. But I've got to be honest. I'm going to be honest, and I hate to say it, Pratalis, but watching that and watching it in comparison to what we just saw from Joseph Manilow a moment ago was kind of night and day.
Oh, well, I could actually understand what was going on.
You could see what was happening, right? It wasn't a blur vision. It wasn't that quick. It was a blur.
But perhaps that could be to do with the element of pressure. Obviously, there's no real sort of sense of danger in this race. So you're not, obviously, as you mentioned, you're just looking to finish rather than push those insane times. But you are absolutely right that when you look ahead to the later stages of the tournament, both of those races didn't hit anything near the kind of insane pace we've been seeing so far.
Yeah, just a 43 and a 59. But as you say, just finish. You get through to the next round. So hopefully we'll see them continue to progress. The next one will be where they're really under pressure. So Max will go through as well. Is it a set time, maybe?
Unless it is gone from a 3-person heat to a 2-person heat, which makes Max Villarreal last place in the race, and so only one person qualifies through a 2-man.
Right. That makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, next up is a fast one. Pedro Caceres from Northeastern University has set that sub time of 29 seconds earlier on. Obviously, it has been matched now by Joseph Manilow, who both went through the same heat. Evan Petrie from Bingham Young going through, as well as Qing Wenwei from the University of Maryland.
And this is going to be an interesting one, definitely just because of Brigham Young having one of the lowest budgets in the entire event, but still managing to come through second place of their heat. And Pedro Caceres has put our quickest time overall on this track so far.
Yeah, this is Northeastern University will be red. Bingham Young, I cannot remember what color Brigham Young were. I cannot remember. University of Maryland were yellow, if I'm not mistaken. I may be wrong on that one.
I agree with you on that. I do believe it was yellow for the University of Maryland. And I do think that they might be the two colors that you're looking out for as well, red and yellow in the lead. And yes, Brigham Young can certainly pull out a surprise once again. I know I wasn't necessarily expecting Evan to make it through his heat, given the small size of his university's drone racing team, but you have to give him credit for making through that first round anyway. And you'll have to see whether he can surprise us again in this upcoming one.
Well, for Pedro Caceres, he's going to be looking to get a bit of vengeance maybe on Qing Wenwei. If you remember, University of Maryland, they did already knock out one. Northeastern University in Burwell was already knocked out once by Qing Wenwei. Obviously, Ryan Long went through in that same group with him. Qing Wenwei was second in that one. So Evan Petrie came through second place in his heat. He was alongside North Dakota. He actually was a 47-second time. So I got a feeling that Evan's going to be the one under pressure here. Pedro, you never know though. When you're racing that fast, mistakes can happen. We could have a DNF. Who knows? Let's see. Here we go.
Well, already it's Pedro straight off into the lead like lightning fast. Absolutely far and away ahead of this one. But interestingly enough, it is Evan from Brigham Young in second place at the moment. University of Maryland, Qing Wenwei might just have caught up to him, though, and forced himself back up into that second place spot. Nobody is able to catch Pedro, however.
They've just been lapped. They've just been lapped by Pedro. He's going that fast, but it is really a two-horse race between these two. As you say, and I think it is going to be, as you say, it is very close between them, but it is looking like Qing Wenwei is the man. Will take second place at the moment, barring any mistakes. Brigham Young University are just falling behind on this one. And Qing Wenwei is going to go. Has he finished? Did he crash? Did he DNF? I think he crashed.
Yeah, I think he crashed out during his second.
He did? Oh, no.
That means Evan, once again.
26.1 I just want to put that out there because that is by far the fastest we have seen now. Looking at a potential winner here for this track, but obviously you got to do it when it counts in the finals. But that is easily the fastest. That's nearly 3 seconds quicker once again than we just saw. But Qingwen Wei, he was leading in second place. Just leading in second place, you know what I mean? He was ahead in second place of Evan Petrie, but it just wasn't to be. Crashed out. Evan Petrie won't go through. Didn't quite meet the time either. So Pedro absolutely smashing that heat.
Indeed. I mean, just the fact that he was able to improve on the fastest time that we'd already seen, that is absolute insanity. And it really does step things up here because you can see in that second heat, Pedro Caceres and Joseph Manolo are 2 fastest pilots of the day. They are going head to head again in the second heat, but we've got one more heat to get through before then.
It's the battle. Both Coventry universities in the same group together. Matt Bierman has been the fastest so far with a 35. Ryan Long has been posting 35 seconds as well. Benjamin Owen, let's have a quick look at my stats so far, has been pretty damn quick as well for the University of Alabama. Joseph Hyde, I hate to say, is the rank outsider in this one. Ironically, the man that leads the University of Coventry drone race.
I think it has to be said at this point in time that the hopes and dreams of the UK might just rest firmly on Matt Bierman's shoulders. He certainly has looked like the most proficient British pilot of the day, and it's really going to be up to him to put up a good time for the UK.
Yeah, this is some incredible stuff. Okay, remember, top 2 will go through into our grand finale. But here we are, the semi-finals effectively in round 3. Matt Bierman, Joseph Hyde, both from the University of Coventry, Ryan Lung from Northeastern University, and Benjamin Owen from Alabama. It will be a double purple colours for the University of Coventry, the red for Northeastern University, and Alabama. I cannot remember what colour they raced.
I believe they were also red. They just haven't yet been in a race alongside a Northeastern University racer. So it's going to be interesting to see which one of those differs to a secondary colour from their logo as we do get into that particular race. Otherwise, we're going to have 2 dual stream races going on.
So the brighter pink, I guess you could say, will be Matt Bierman. The purple will be Joseph Hyde. Ryan Lung will be a darker red, and a lighter red will be Ben Owen from Alabama. And boy, do we have a race on our hands here. The semi-finals with Coventry University's Matt Bierman, the favourite, alongside Ryan Lung to take this heat. And we're underway.
And it does look like we have Matt Bierman out in first place at the moment, but this is one of the closest packs that we have seen so far, neck and neck for first and second, it looks like, as Alabama just about pull into the lead, I believe, but they are wrestling back and forth for positions right now, as I think Matt Bierman has just slept back in front.
Yeah, it looks like Matt Bierman at the moment is currently leading. You can see it is very close. As expected, these two, alongside with Ryan Lung, very close in there. Ben Owen posting a fast time. This is from Matt Bierman's point of view on his third and final lap, it looks like, as Joseph Hyde also comes around. He goes over the line. So we're looking at some, well, there was certainly a sub 40 in there. That is going to be Ben Owen last place. He will be out, unfortunately. It will be a case of who our top 2 runners were. And I think we're going to be seeing the man from Coventry, along with Northeastern Universities, taking first and second.
You are exactly right. Matt Bierman and Ryan Lung, first and second place, but neither able to break that 30-second barrier just yet, which could be pretty significant as this late stage in the race.
Yeah, that's a quicker time, though, from Matt. That's definitely a fast one. His fastest so far. And with Ryan, both hitting the breaking the 35 seconds, which is what was obviously delaying them. You can only beat what is in front of you. For Ben Owen, unfortunately, it is a DNF. Joseph Hyde, 41 seconds, would you believe, is not enough. Did get a 42 in round 12. But now we move on to round 15, which will possibly be one of the fastest. Russell Moretzka from the University of North Dakota up against some really stiff competition here from Pedro Caceres from Northeastern University, and both him and Joseph Manilow, the only two to hit sub 30-second time. For Joseph, he got himself for Pedro got himself a 26-second time. Kyle Ricketts only hitting the 35s will be a real outsider here in the Milwaukee School of Engineering.
That 26-second time, that is just absolute insanity. That was already a time improvement on his first sub 30 seconds. How much more improvement does Pedro have left in him? How much quicker can he get? That is the critical question that I'm very much looking forward to have answered.
For Russell from the University of North Dakota will be in green, and Pedro will be red. Joseph Manilow will be yellow, and I believe Kyle is purple, if I'm not mistaken, for Milwaukee School of Engineering. This is going to be a fast one. There's no doubt about it. This is the one. But how dangerous can they be? How much do you push it? You know you've got to win. You know you've got to get yourself into that top two. But when you know you're that much quicker than maybe the competing pilots, do you maybe just back up and make sure you finish, or do you just go hell for leather? We will find out.
Well, you've not got much time even to make that decision. As blink and it is over with some of these pilots. This heat about to get underway then, and the liftoff does go through. Pedro Caceres up in first place, closely followed but not overtaken, as he's still maintaining the lead at the moment and putting through these incredibly fast times.
Yeah, I would love to get some first-person view. There we go, Pedro. Look at this. And you can see he's trailing at the moment. He's not in the lead. It is going to be the man from Northeastern University, Pedro Caceres, ahead of him. Joseph Manilow in second place right now. But look how incredibly close it is. Look how craft it is. That was a 28 time from Joseph Manilow, which means it's once again another incredible time coming out of Pedro Caceres from Northeastern University. Good grief. 40 seconds and this is over. We've seen some of the fastest heats there. 26.197. It's the faster time once again. 26.930 with his previous time. Joseph Manilow with a 27.972 as well. What a speed. These are incredible pilots.
You actually said that Pedro was trailing there for a second. He was trailing himself. That's how fast he was going around the track. He was following his own trail around, an 8.3 second best lap. And you have to give commendations to Joseph Manilow as well. He's only narrowly slower at the end of that heat. And that really does set us up for an absolute brawl of a final race.
So here we go. Matt Bierman from Coventry University, representing the whole of the United Kingdom, up against two Northeastern University pilots in Pedro Caceres, the fastest so far, with a 26.1. Ryan Lung alongside him, both going to be representing Northeastern University, and Joseph Manilow, who was hot on the heels of Pedro there. One mistake and Joseph will be in there. But it's definitely all on Pedro Caceres here as we move into the final.
That is really going to be the duel in this final, I believe. Pedro Caceres versus Joseph Manilow. Keep your eyes on those red and yellow trails, because that, I believe, is going to be the battle that you want to be witnessing. Both racers got quicker from their earlier heats. It's just that Pedro Caceres has improved on our record time of the day, time and time again in those heats so far. And if history is anything to go by, he's set to have another incredible heat in the final, unless, of course, there is that last-minute nerves, those last-minute blunders. And as you mentioned, Joseph Manilow, he'll be right there to press those mistakes.
So we're going to be looking at the bright red for Pedro Caceres here, Joseph Manilow in the yellow, the darker beige for Ryan Lung, and Matt Bierman as the purple. And this is going to be a heck of a time, a heck of a final. We've seen some fantastic racing from the pilots so far throughout the day. And now here we are in the grand finals. Pedro Caceres, the man in red, the man to watch, looking to see how he's going to come out here. Will he be the champion?
We'll have to see as they get underway. Pedro Caceres, far and away the first racer ahead here, closely being followed by Joseph Manolo. It's a duel for first and second at the moment. They are virtually neck and neck. And actually, Joseph, he's just about in head.
I think Manolo, I think Joseph just has the lead here at the moment. They whip around once again. This is going to be an incredibly close, but it does look like Joseph Manolo slightly just dropped behind there. Did he make a mistake? Did Joseph crash out? I didn't quite see. Pedro Caceres looks like he's the man in the lead right now as he goes over the line once again. It has clearly been an error there because he manages to come around Ryan Long with a fast time of his own. I think that was a 32-second for him, but I didn't quite catch who won there. An incredibly fast final. So fast the observers struggle to keep up. It's Pedro that comes out. It was a 26.06, his fastest time yet. Incredible, nearly dead on 26 seconds. What a pilot. Oh my word.
And credit where it's due to Joseph Manolo. He was in the lead. He actually got the fastest lap of that race, but made one critical error, and that allowed Pedro Caceres to come back in with our fastest overall race time of the day here on the Liftoff Arena, and only just missing out on breaking that 26-second barrier.
I mean, whoa, that lap time, indeed, 7.9 second lap time is phenomenal. But it's Pedro Caceres from Northeastern University that comes out on top in a heated battle against the University of Central Florida. Joseph Manolo, as you mentioned, had the lead. We were so surprised that we saw, obviously, putting in a fantastic lap time, but we said it at the start, when you're going that speed, when you look at it from the first person perspective, just how incredibly fast these pilots go, there will inevitably be a mistake at some point. And unfortunately for Joseph, it was in the final, and Pedro benefits from that one in the closest race he's had so far.
Indeed, and it has to be said, the dark horse candidate has come out and taken it on the Liftoff Arena. None of the American racers mentioning him as somebody to look out for. Joseph Manolo was given credit as somebody who has performed well in collegiate competitions in the US so far, but Pedro Caceres, I mean, you can't deny the numbers. He has been far and away our fastest racer of the day at Liftoff Arena.
Absolutely, and he's got faster and faster and faster as the day is going on. I mean, he blew us away in the initial qualifying heat, and when we saw him in round 7, both him and Joseph obviously coming through in that heat. We saw at the time that was a 29 and a 30. That was the first sub 29 second time we've seen for the day, and then he steps it up at 26.9 as we hit the semi-finals. And oh my word, a 26.006 for three laps. Not just one, that's 3 laps of the circuit.
That is just absolute insanity, and it does look as though we have Pedro Caceres here for a post-race interview. I think the first question that we have to ask Pedro is, how on earth are you feeling after that lightning fast performance?
Oh man, my hands are still shaking.
It was
an incredible race. I mean, let's talk about it, because obviously it was pretty much neck and neck between yourself and Joseph Manolo.
Oh yeah,
like he actually had the lead for a brief period, but made a slight error. He had the fastest lap as well.
Yeah, for sure. I saw his little trail every time I was taking a 180, and that just got me super scared.
We did speak to some of the American competitors before Pedro, and they actually failed to mention your name as somebody to be scared of in this tournament. Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I am a sophomore now, so I haven't raced with too many of the U.S. college guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be it.
Well, after today's performances and those lightning fast speeds, do you think you're going to be taking them forward to some more collegiate championships?
I sure hope so.
Yeah, fantastic time. I mean, obviously, you were getting faster and faster. Obviously, you started off with a pretty quick time, but a 26.0 in the final. Was that just simply the pressure from Joseph Manolo that drove you to go quicker and quicker?
Oh, yeah. I was trying to take every corner as tight as possible just so that I could, edge him out and take that.
Well, fantastic race from you. Absolute blistering final. Unfortunately, you blew away our one and only UK hope in Matt Bierman. And obviously, moving on, we have once again moving on to the next track. Have you put much time into the next track?
I have not. I'm gonna go do that as soon as this is over. Actually.
Well, I have no doubt you'll be able to get on that time. Thank you very much, Frank. Congratulations once again, an absolute blistering race in the finals.
Thank you so much.
So, Pratalis, I believe we will cut to an advert when we come back. Oh, my word. How can we match the paces and the excitement that we just had in that finals? I can only hope as we move on to the next track. Let's see you in a few. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first International University Drone Racing League.
Carl Ricketts actually managed to do him again before he gets overtaken. This is an absolute dogfight in our opening matchup here, round 4 of the opening bracket.
North Dakota going just past Matt Bierman. This is going to be an absolutely intense one as they've got to make sure that,
oh my God, the reaction times, the speed, the flicks, absolutely blistering. To get some first person view. There we go, Patro. Look at this. You can see he's trailing at the moment. He's not in the next one. In the back, Ricketts goes out. Here we go, Pratalis. This is it. This is where we're getting the action. You're based there yourself. We want to see whether Matt Bierman can step it up